Imagine living a life of luxury, believing you know everything about the person you love the most, only to discover a shocking secret that changes everything. That's exactly what happened to this wealthy businessman. For over 30 years, he thought he had the perfect marriage, a loving wife, and a seamless life. But when he stumbled upon a hidden letter tucked away in an old jewelry box, his world turned upside down. The letter revealed a secret his wife had kept buried for 6 decades, a past life, a hidden son, and choices she never thought would resurface. As he confronts her, the truth unravels, leaving him speechless and questioning everything he thought he knew. What led her to keep this secret? And who is the son that's been hidden for so long? Stay tuned, because this story will leave you wondering how well we ever truly know the people closest to us. The discovery left him reeling, his mind racing with questions. How could the woman he had shared his life with, the one who stood by him through every success and failure, keep something so monumental hidden? That night, unable to sleep, he replayed the moment he found the letter over and over again. It wasn't just the words on the paper that haunted him, it was the weight of what they meant. His wife had a life before him, one she never spoke about, and now the mention of a son he had no idea existed, opened a door to a past he had never been part of. The next morning, he sat across from her at the breakfast table, holding the letter in his trembling hands. She looked at him, her face calm, but her eyes filled with a mix of guilt and fear. "Where do I even begin?" she whispered. Her words hung in the air, heavy and uncertain. He waited, his heart pounding, as she began to reveal the truth. Decades ago, long before they met, she was a young woman in love with a man her family didn't approve of. When she discovered she was pregnant, the world seemed to turn against her. Pressured by those around her, she made a decision that haunted her for the rest of her life. She gave the child up for adoption, believing it was the only way to give him a better future. As she spoke, he noticed her hands trembling slightly. This wasn't easy for her, but he couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Why had she never told him? Why hide something so important? The letter wasn't just a confession, it was also a plea. Her son had found her after all these years and wanted to meet her. But what did he want now? And how would this change everything they'd built? The room felt colder now, the silence between them growing heavier with every passing second. He tried to process what he'd just heard, but his emotions swirled, anger, confusion, and an odd pang of sadness. "So he's out there, waiting for you," he said finally, his voice sharper than he intended. She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "He reached out a month ago. I've been trying to find the courage to tell you, but I didn't know how." The weight of her secret was overwhelming, but there was something deeper that gnawed at him. What if this man, this son he never knew existed, had motives they couldn't trust? Questions flooded his mind. Did he want closure? Was he seeking money? Or was there more to this reunion than what met the eye? As the days passed, the tension between them grew unbearable. Then, one evening, a message arrived, a meeting time and place. It was happening, whether they were ready or not. The evening of the meeting arrived, and the atmosphere was thick with tension. They sat in the car, barely speaking, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, while he gripped the steering wheel, lost in thought. When they reached the small cafe, he scanned the room, searching for the face of the man who had shaken their lives to the core. Then, in the corner, a figure stood, tall, composed, and undeniably familiar. The resemblance was striking, and for a moment he froze. But as they approached, something unexpected happened. The man introduced himself, polite yet guarded, and thanked her for coming. He didn't ask about money or demand anything. Instead, he revealed something they hadn't anticipated. He wasn't alone. Another woman entered, holding a small child. The boy had her eyes, his wife's eyes. The shock rippled through him, and he realized this wasn't just about reconnecting with a son. It was about the family he had already created, a family that would now collide with their carefully built life. What did this mean for their future? And why did he feel like the real truth was still waiting to surface? The air in the cafe was thick with emotion as the weight of the moment settled over them. Her son, now a man with his own family, spoke with a calm yet firm voice. "I didn't come here to disrupt your life," he said, glancing between them. "I just needed to know who you were, to understand the choices you made." She was visibly shaken, tears streaming down her face as she apologized for leaving him, explaining the circumstances that led to her decision. But then the twist came, a revelation no one saw coming. Her son slid a worn envelope across the table. "I found this in the adoption records," he said quietly. Inside was a letter she had written decades ago, begging the agency to ensure her son would find her if he ever searched. She had never stopped hoping. Her husband, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "You found her, and now we all need to decide what happens next." But before anyone could respond, the young boy, the grandson they never knew they had, walked up to her and simply said, "Grandma." In that single word, everything shifted. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a second chance at family. And as the pieces of their lives began to come together in an unexpected way, they realized this story was only the beginning of something new. The cafe grew quiet as everyone absorbed the moment. Her hands trembled as she reached out, pulling her grandson into a gentle hug. It was as if years of guilt and longing melted away in that instant. Her son watched with a softened expression, and her husband, though still grappling with a whirlwind of emotions, gave a nod of silent support. Over the following weeks, they began to rebuild, not just bridges to her son's life, but also the foundation of their own marriage. Trust didn't return overnight, but their shared determination to embrace its new chapter kept them moving forward. For her husband, it was a lesson in forgiveness and the realization that love often comes with its own complexities. For her, it was a chance to heal wounds she thought would never close. And for all of them, it was proof that even the deepest secrets could lead to unexpected beginnings.